this first one, and this one is the examples. And in here, you will see these many files. You can ignore all these things. So only these three is needed. But it's okay to have all of them. And then for example files, there are these two folders. And you can have a look if you're interested in, but we will use these flocking today, but not now. We are not going to do this now. We are going to do this at the end just to test running. So once you have this copied to your libraries, you will have to restart your Rhino. And you can tell from your tab. So if you have this ST platform on your tab, then it's installed. All right, so I'll just go ahead and start because the beginning is probably quite easy and boring. You don't even have to follow, you can watch if you want. So today I'm going to explicitly go developing C# code. So in order to make a code in your Grasshopper window, there are a few ways of doing that by using C# or Visual Basics or Python. We're going to use this one today. And if you double click, there are a lot of things, but you can only add your own wordings where it's highlighted as white. So all these gray parts, you are not allowed to do anything there. So everything in the white area, you can add things. All right. So we are going to go through some basic concepts in the beginning. So how to declare a number, how to read a number, how to assign a value, and that kind of things, yeah? So if you're already familiar with any coding language, this will be too easy for you. You can maybe go have a coffee, relax, yeah? So double click on it. One thing you really need to be careful is before you close, if you just click on somewhere else, it minimizes. And if you double click it again, it opens another window. So if you make any changes here and say okay, and then do another change here, it overrides it. So if you double click, it overrides. So be careful when you are closing this window, always close it properly. So don't just go away to somewhere else. All right. And in Grasshopper, red means it's error. Orange means there is something warning, but it's not error. Yeah. So here, the way to check what's the error is to hook up a panel, or you can double click here and then say panel, and connect it to this out in export to see the error message and warning message. So this we will use a lot. Okay, so if you do anything like that without a comment, it's going to error, of course. So I'm going to delete it and save it. But this error is not going. So in this case, you can say recompute. Something went wrong, right? This is weird, but that's fine because we didn't do anything. So recompute. I don't understand why this is still erroring, but just in case, I'm going to remake it. C#, Okay, so double click, and we are going to make a lot of different variables. So first thing we are going to learn is int. Say int a, and say a is a number, whatever it is. And you can say a is a small. So this is capital sensitive, case sensitive. So a capital and a small a is different. Yeah, so be careful. So now it's not orange nor red. This is actually outputting a value to a. So now a is 12, and 12 is the number we assigned here. So in C#, whenever you are declaring something, you need to declare with the type of value. So this means a integer. Integer is a type of number, and this number has no decimal number. So if you are more curious about different variables, you can Google or Baidu and ask C# variable types and variables, and this will give you a lot of references, I think. This is explaining something else, sorry. Variables. So C# variables. So this is explaining how it works. But variable list. Okay. So data types in C#. Okay, so this is a list of different data. So you can see that there is a byte, whatever, like this is what we were using. Int is integer, is a number, has decimal number. We use this a lot, float and double. Actually, we are going to use double a lot. It's a 64-bit number, has decimal number, allows you to have decimal number. Boolean is a true false value. String is a value for like text. So you can see a lot of like documents about C# data types. That's what we are going to use here. And you can also import some data through this port. So for example, I want to have a slider. Let's say you can make a slider, number slider, by going to input a number slider here. And let's say this is from 0 to 1. Yeah. And what we are going to do is I'm going to import this and add this number with my A number and export it here. So this will give you a plus plugin. So for example, you right click in order to do that. So if you go here, you see that X is a type of object. So this, if we say A is A plus X, this will error. So why? Let's have a look why. Because you cannot operate int and object with plus, because this is an object, it's not a number. So whenever you're passing a word or number in C#, you need to specify the type int and the list access. So go right click on X and say type int. And here you can see all the different type hints you can use in Grasshopper C#. So these are actually more than enough for us to use. So we are going to use, in this case, double. Why? Because we have decimal number here. And this is already added to my 12 number, right? So this is great. So what if I have another slider and place it here, right click, change the type int to double, and double click, and I will just, for now, I will delete this and say, this is x plus y, okay. And the resulting geometry, resulting value is a addition of two numbers. This is exactly same as a math plus function. So this function, this battery does exactly the same thing, adding two values and returning a added value, right? So this is actually doing a really simple line, but it actually uses up an entire battery. So if you can actually build up most of your code in a very organized text-based coding system, your code will be so much more lighter and so much more cleaner and without too many errors in the future. So maybe it will be a great habit for you to develop something that you can package things in C# as a text-based coding. Doesn't have to be C#, of course. Yeah. Do you mind giving me like 1 second? I will just turn on my light. Sorry. It's starting to get dark here. Okay. Are you guys hanging there? Is it too slow?
I think it's fine. So if anyone has some questions, please type in the chat, or yeah, you can go on.
Okay. Okay. Great. So I will go a little bit faster. Okay. Thank you. All right. So let's make another C#. So let's go back to the variable types. So we can go through a few more variables. We can try a few more variables. So we were making int a, and then a is 12. And you have to, this line can be written like this as well. So these two lines are exactly same as this. But if you save this now, it's going to error. Why? Because you are defining two A's in same script. You cannot do that. It's not allowed. So if you are going to, you can, this is called declaration, declare, and this is assign value. So you can only declare a value one time, but you can assign value many times. So if you want to do the declaration and assignment in one line, you can do that, that's fine. But then you have to comment this out. So if you want to skip the calculation, you can comment by adding two slides. Okay, so what if, so now this A is 12, yeah? So that's 12, great. But what happens if you assign this value again? So I want to assign it to 3 in the next line. The value, you can imagine it's refreshed to 3, yeah? So you can assign values many times. We are going to also try double. Double is a number that you can have a decimal number. You can also, we can output this by adding another output called B. And let's output this to B, okay? And there's no output port, so click on plus, so you can add a B to output another output. So, sorry. So this is giving you 1.23, which is the B value, yeah? So if you say this as int, it's going to error. Why? Because B is a decimal number, it doesn't store as integer. So that's why the type is quite important in C#. And let's try the string. String is like a text. And you can say hello, and with quotation mark, then it becomes a string. So in order to view this S, we can, of course, you can say C is S, but this, instead, we want to actually see this as a output from the output port. You can also do that by print a string. Say okay, and this will be printed in the output. So you can change the names in as print. But in print, you can only print a string. You cannot print a number value. So we will go through that later. Another thing is called bar. So bar is something that represents any variable. So you can say bar n, or bar, let's say n, a number, is 10. And we can output this. Instead of B, I'm going to say N. So, okay. So now this is, there is a warning. Let's see what that is. So the variable B is assigned, but didn't never get used. And so if something is a redundant line, it's also giving you a warning, but you can ignore it because it doesn't harm your calculation at all. So you can ignore that error, but this will be orange. Maybe that's annoying to some of you, but that's fine. So you can see that bar, we didn't say it's int, but you can easily change this to whatever. So for example, a very different type of geometry, then you can say bar. So sometimes it's really handy because if it's, it can assign anything. But one thing you need to really careful is that using bar, you cannot declare and assign in separate line. You can only write it in this manner. So if you say bar declare, make it, and then n is high, this is not allowed. So see, this was allowed, but this is not allowed. You can see that the variable must be initiated in the same line. Yeah. So that's when you need to be careful. So that's the bar. We are going to learn two more variables that is defined by Grasshopper. So far, all of these variables were C# variables, C# classes, or C# types. But there are a lot of variables that are made by Grasshopper or Rhino for us. So in order to get access to those information, you can Google Rhino Common SDK, Rhino Common API, yeah. And you can Rhino Common API. Let's Google more specific API C#. So Rhino Common API C# and documentation. I think I keep on forgetting. So I have this Rhino API. Okay, where do I find this? so let's go to developers rhino3d.com, and there is Rhino Common, and this is C#, and you should find the namespace somewhere here. Namespace. So, okay, please let me know if you can dig it out where, but if you are not sure, you can copy these lines. But in my case, what I normally do is I go online and say C# point, because I know point3d is what I'm going to use now. C# point3d grasshopper or Rhino common. This is where I can get access to all the variables for this point class that is provided by the Rhino Common API. So let's dig out later how to get there by clicking, but actually it's out there called Rhino Common API, and it has all the namespaces or all the have all the classes. It's called classes that is provided by Grasshopper or Rhino. Yeah. So let me share this link. Let me share this link like this. It's easy. Okay. Yeah. So what we are going to use is point3d. 3D. Point3d method. I'm sure this is not the best way of using this, but it does things. So point3d structure. Okay. So in point3d, you can see the constructor. This means how you need this value to construct a point3d. And this means these are the values that you can use. And these are the methods you can use. So what does it mean? It's so complex. Don't worry, I will show you how to use that. So let me open that thing next to my screen. So let's make another C#. Okay, so here I'm going to make a point3d, new point. You can name it anyhow. So this is assignment, declaration, you remember? And then we are going to assign a number, but we have to make a point3d. In order to make a class that is built by somebody, we need to use their constructor. So we are going to use this constructor. So for using a constructor, you have to say new point3d, and don't worry about the autocorrection. And we are going to use this method using 3 double. So let's say 1 or 4 and 0, whatever. You can say 10, 4, 0. So that is a coordinate of x and y and z. So now what we did is we made a point on 10, 4, 0 coordinate. So this is how we were using constructor. So constructor is done. A is new point. Okay. So this is actually executing or exporting a point, and you will see how this is actually creating a point on your screen. Yeah. Okay. So you can also make another. Let's make another point by. Okay. let me do this. So you can make and assign in one line, easy. New point 2, and I'm going to make it on, let's say, 1 minus 5, whatever. And then let's execute point 2 for visualization and add a B. Okay, now you should see 2 points. So what if I just want to see or print a line and using this Y value. So in the property, once you made your point 3D, you can actually access all this information by saying point 2 dot Y, for example. So this autocorrection will also suggest you that. So this way you are only getting this Y value. So all of these values is something that you can access, but we are going to mostly use X and Y and Z. So now instead of seeing that point, it actually gives you only one value, and you can actually do something with that value in the future. So that's how you use the properties. Does it make sense? So constructor properties. And how do we use this method? So do you remember how to add a vector to a vector and what's the result of that? So let's try this add vector to a vector. So I'm going to keep this as point 2, as we were seeing here. But let me ask you a question. So I'm going to bake this and draw a line from my top view, because this O my 0 is O my 0 is this, yeah, my Z is 0, so that's okay. So if you disagree with me, let me know. So this point 2 is a vector that is actually pointing from 0, 0, 0 to this position. And my point 1, new point 1 is a vector, looks like this, yeah? So what happens if I add A and B? So you can actually do that mathematics by using a mathematic addition. So add. So you can use this add directly here. This will give you also a result. So this gives you this point, yeah? So why is that? It's because we are adding, copy, we are adding this line and making a point to that position. So that's the resulting vector of adding this vector to that vector. Do you agree with me? Yes, I hope so. What happens if I minus, so new minus new 2. So let's have a look. Minus, subtract A, subtract B. This gives me not a good position, I think, because this will give me, so this will give me, where is it? Where is this point? So lost. It doesn't do subtract. Okay. Let's see what's the value. Okay, 999. Where is that? Okay, so basically subtraction is a point, because I minused from here to there.